Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Speaker, this motion is the final opportunity to amend the legislation and would do so without any delay in passage. This amendment ensures that labor unions are not using illegal foreign labor to expand their reach into the American workplaces and collect more union dues. Under current law, an employee can sign a union authorization card to count toward the showing of interest in union elections, regardless of whether that worker is authorized to work in the United States. Illegal immigrants should not be working at American companies, let alone used by labor unions to organize workplaces. This motion to recommit ensures that unions cannot communicate with employees for organizing purposes.
House is not in order.
I got it.
Gentleman may proceed.
This motion to recommit ensures that unions cannot communicate with employees for organizing purposes if the employee is not legally authorized to work in the United States. Because of the success I've worked for in life, not many.
Gentleman may proceed.
Because of the success I've worked for in life, not many people know that my life began very differently. My family was dependent on food stamps for most of my youth. My stepdad never worked, and my siblings and I paid the price for it. I knew from a young age that I would not let that be my life. From the moment I could start working, I did whatever it took to earn financial security. Hog farming, welding, computer programming, and the list goes on. If it weren't for the McDonald's franchising program, I wouldn't be here today. After 11 years working in the restaurants, I was able to work my way into the franchising program and purchase my first franchise location, then build a successful company with over 20 locations. A program that allowed a person that came from a place like I did to achieve the American dream. I've lived a true American story, and my mission in life is to help every child who grew up like me, wondering where their next meal would come from, unsure if their lights would be on when they get home from school. I want those kids to know that our country is a place of opportunity and a place of hope for those who will work for it. We shouldn't be here discussing this bill today. It's not worthy of this chamber. But since we are, I must do everything I can to show my disapproval in the strongest terms. The change we're proposing here is simple. We're asking that unions be barred from contacting individuals who are not eligible to work in this country. If an employer cannot hire someone in our country illegally, a union should not be allowed to organize those individuals. Believe it or not, this is not currently outlawed. If my colleagues insist on moving forward with legislation that empowers union bosses and strips independence from our workers, they should not do it in a way that encourages illegal immigration. This motion to recommit would make the PRO Act a pro-American worker rather than just pro-union for bosses. I've been doing my research a long time. I spent 34 years as a business owner before coming to Congress. I've dealt with union issues for longer than some of my colleagues have been alive. AFL-CIO President Richard Trumka, who will financially benefit from the passage of this bill, said, direct quote, "Those who would oppose, delay, or derail this legislation do not ask us for a single dollar, nor a door knock. We won't be coming," end quote. Well, I'm standing here today to let Mr. Trumka know that I proudly oppose this legislation. One of the biggest glaring failures this legislation is taking away employee choice, effectively repealing right-to-work laws all across this country, like in my home state, where we choose to empower employees and employers alike. Decades of legal precedent will be pushed aside, where workers have previously held the freedom to choose whether or not to pay fees and join a union. They will now be forced to pay membership fees or lose their job. This will put immeasurable power in the hands of union bosses. Privacy provisions that have been in place for decades, barring unions from accessing private information about employees, will be eradicated under this bill. You heard that right. Union will be able to access employees' private information, even those that are not members of the union. They can use that information for anything, sell it to the highest bidder, all without the knowledge or the consent of the individuals. The same franchises that gave me the opportunity to achieve the American dream are under attack with this legislation. Over 750,000 franchise locations that employ more than 8 million people are at risk because of the joint employer provisions in the bill. The expanded joint employer standards cost franchise businesses $33.3 billion per year, resulting in 376,000 job opportunities and 93% more lawsuits. Many of the ideas in this bill
Gentleman may proceed.
Many of the ideas in this bill have already been rejected in the court system and are currently opposed by a bipartisan coalition in Congress. I urge my friends across the aisle to support the motion to recommit on the behalf of the American worker and their right to choose. I yield back my time. Thank you.